Yes, thank you, committee and members of transportation. Appreciate it. My name is Lewie, Pugh. I am the Executive Vice President of the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association based in Grain Valley, Missouri. OOIDA is the largest national association representing small business truckers and independent drivers. We have approximately 150,000 members across the United States, 7,600 of those here in the state of Missouri, and they operate about 240,000 pieces of equipment across this country. I would say also, prior to taking this job, I spent 25 years as a small business trucker myself, owned one truck, one trailer company, and have 2.5 million miles of safe driving. What I'm going to talk about from the question is I'm throwing my testimony I wrote out the window because I think some of the questions here come down to the people who own the trucks. 96% of all trucking companies out here are small business truckers, 20 trucks or less. Trucking is a very, very, very tight profit margin business. I tell people it's a penny saved industry business, not a money made business. It's kind of like farming. And there's lots and lots of people who control everything about it. The problem with the insurance and buying insurance, I had towing insurance. You don't know how much to buy because, as the previous witness says, you're not exactly sure. It could be $400,000. It should have been 20, or could have been 5,000. It should have been 2, or whatever. Really, the problem is the fees and how all these fees that come in here. Thank God, as I said, I've had 2.5 million miles of safe driving. I never had to deal with this problem personally, but I have friends who have. And when you're a small business trucker, that trucks your life. That feeds your family, that clothes your kids, that takes care of everything. When something happens, which 80% of these accidents between, especially when trucks and cars are involved, are the fault of the person or the car. And when we talk about insurance minimums, cars they're not required to have enough insurance to even touch the tow truck to show up out there. It may not even been the trucker's fault. A lot of times it is not. But here's the real world scenario. When something like this happens to you as a small business trucker, your life's pretty much devastated because your equipment that you've spent $200,000 for is now damaged. You're trying to get it back. And there's a lot of good towing companies out here, but you get unscrupulous ones who put egregious storage fees that you can't even afford to get your equipment back to get it somewhere to get it fixed in the first place. And the only way, as a small business trucker, you have a chance to pay the towing company, the repair, or any of these things, is you got to get your equipment back and get it fixed to get back on the road. That's just the thing here. Now, I'm a free market guy, and I believe in free market society, but I also believe that we all have a right to have someone to go to when we've been wronged. And for too long in the state of Missouri, there's nobody to go to when you get one of these bills. I personally know of a tow that happened to a friend of mine, and he was charged double the price for the equipment that was sent out there than if he would have called that tower and had them come tow something personally. Twice the price, they doubled on the equipment. So that's not right. And again, there's lots of good towers out there. That's not what this is about, but everybody deserves some kind of protection. So I appreciate the opportunity and thank you on behalf of myself and my members in OOIDA.
Representative Mayhew. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, just a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
And you may or may not be familiar with this list, but you would know what this means. The vehicle seizure without cause, give me an example of that.
I would say, as I was earlier, you're a vehicle that's parked in a parking area, because we also have this huge parking shortage across the country, and there's no signs there that say no parking, or maybe there is, maybe there isn't, and a tow truck's just, I just pull in, grab the truck, and go, and then you're stuck.
So hang on a second. You have a driver in the vehicle parked at some overnight spot, and a tow truck company comes by and hooks up to it, drags it off with the driver in it?
More so, I think this kind of happens if you're parked and maybe they're in a restaurant eating, maybe they're at a hotel. If the driver's in there, then maybe they can work it out. Some things that we see, what happens is they boot them. The driver's in the truck sleeping. They come along, put some sort of boot on the truck or something like that.
So, are these places intentionally make it difficult to understand that you can't park a truck there? Get these fees?
You go around some parking lots and maybe they'll have one little sign stuck somewhere that says no truck parking. I mean, some places do, and if drivers park somewhere that's well marked and they shouldn't have been there, I guess that's on them. But again, that's a whole nother conversation because there's only one safe parking place for every 11 trucks in this country right now. So trucks just get stuck parking everywhere, unfortunately.
Well, we're trying to address the predatory towing with this. That it seems to me that there should be, well, somebody ought to make a law, right? But it seems like that's something we should. Some of the representatives get that joke, but we perhaps, I mean, this might be beyond the stretch of this, but that seems to me that to be at least a component of this thing that we're trying to solve. Because, I mean, if somebody can just come along and hook onto you and drive off with your vehicle on their whim, I mean, at the very least, it seems like that's theft.
Well, I don't disagree, and speaking for me and my organization, we would be all for adding that to the bill for sure, but what we really want to do is we're trying to figure out a way to get, because we've been fighting this now for 6 years, and we want to get this to the finish line, and the big problem where we see, and I'm not saying that this isn't a problem and that there's not fees, but where these big fees and junk fees seem to come from is these non-consensual tows in an accident situation.
Okay. Yeah, and so there's several categories of those non-consensual tows, but that seems like, I mean, I never even realized that someone would even attempt that, but I suppose anybody will try anything, right? But thank you very much for your testimony. Appreciate that, and I will talk to the bill sponsor, see if there's something we could add to try to alleviate that situation too.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Mr.
Representative Butts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, thanks. Really good testimony, by the way. Does your organization put out a list of the bad operators? It seems you're saying there's a bunch of good ones, a few bad apples. I know a lot of unions, for example, I'm involved with, they'll say, don't patronize these businesses. Does your organization do that?
Not really. If someone calls in, we will. I mean, because it's so sporadic. And again, my members, I think I have 150,000. They operate all across the United States. And that's where I know someone earlier asked about calling somebody you know, and there is a small provision. But a lot of times, even myself, I worked in a 700-mile radius, so I didn't know every tower in every town, and so that makes it difficult. But if they call in, we know about it, we will. Our organization does try to work with some of these when the members have a bad bill and try to kind of be an intermediary and help them get them down to a realistic amount.
Thanks. I'm just saying, if there's a pattern with a handful of operators, I think you should get that information out there to all your members and even the public. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for your testimony.
Representative Catton.
Thank you. To inquire and to
Proceed.
comment. Thank you. So this bill isn't going to fix everything, but it's a start. Is that what I'm understanding? It's a good start towards getting towards an inline.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it'll fix everything, but honestly, I think you'll all be shocked how much it will fix, because I've been involved in this in other states that have passed these kind of rules, and it seems like once the rule is passed, the problem just sort of goes away. And I mean, here in Missouri, I will say, since we've been putting these bills out for the last 6 years over and over, it's really, I think we've had 1 or 2 incidences since then. It's really calmed down the state of Missouri, because nobody wants me walking in here with a really bad tow bill, I'm sure.
Okay, and then one comment. So we've been talking a lot, and I'm hearing the word accident implying that it's involving another vehicle. And I just would like to point out, for instance, when I was a manager for a trucking company down in Texas, Texas has very high winds. And one of my drivers was pulling a set back from Altus Air Force Base, and it was empty, and hit a microburst, and those trailers went over. So these aren't just accidents with other vehicles. It could just simply be an act of God. It could be anything of that nature at all. It's just any time that a tow company is called on a non-consensual tow.
Yes, these are for non-consensual tows, and you're correct. It could be anything, and when you spend 100 to 120,000 miles a year driving, anything can happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Burton.
To inquire.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here, giving your testimony. You were talking about the free market and capitalism and things like that, and, I'm a free market guy. And I think you were kind of alluding to price gouging and things like that, but why can't we just let the market work itself out? I mean, if there are companies that are doing wrong by the way that they are charging people to tow trucks, well, then doesn't that open up an availability for someone else to start a company to do it?
No, because the problem with it would, if it would, and I agree with you, if this was something that my trucking company called and got the tower. Okay, I have an accident, whatever happens, I'm not calling the tower. I'm forced to use this tower that I don't have any choice in the matter. So that's the problem here. It's technically not really free market when I don't get to choose. It's just this is who you're using, and then I get stuck with paying whatever the bill is they decide to charge.
Well, could we possibly have some kind of exemption where it's just for when there's an actual accident?
I mean, that's pretty much what these non-consensual tows come into play is when there's an accident.
Do you have a percentage of how many of them, the non-consensual tows, are from accidents?
No, I don't have a percentage, but I would guesstimate that pretty much all of them, other than the parking lot things we were talking about over here, are all of them. Because again, if I have a broke down truck or something like that, I call the towing company and negotiate the rate or have the negotiation, or if I take what I get, that's on me. But these are times when you don't have that opportunity, and these are usually, if not always, an accident type situation.
Well, and that's what you would do, but I'm sure there's been trucks out there that have been left on the side of the road where they didn't do that, and there was still a non-consensual tow. I agree with you that I think that most of them are probably from accidents, but I think that we need to let the free market reign in a lot of ways, and I believe the gentleman is coming from a good place, but I still have problems with this. I mean, we have price gouging when it comes to all kinds of things. We have price gouging right now when it comes to food. I mean, 2 nights ago I had a $60 steak. I don't think it was worth $60, and I'm not going to go in front of a board and plead my case or anything, but I do appreciate you coming in here and giving your testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next time you have a $60 steak, invite some other folks over on the committee too. All right, any additional questions for this witness? Representative Strickler.
To inquire very briefly.
Proceed.
Thank you. From your perspective, what are states that do have something set up that are doing this well? Because you mentioned there are others, and where just having it in place. What are some of those?
With the bill sponsor, I agree. Tennessee's one of the greats. Does a good job at that. I think Arkansas has some regulations. Maryland just last year passed some stuff, but our models, like he said, follows a lot of Tennessee. It seems to be a good model.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you for your time.
Thank you.